By the way, we probably need more CO2 because it's plant food and we rely on plants and they produce oxygen. So anyway, so we go off the air and the guy stands up and he looks at me and goes, "I'll probably be fired over this." I said, "No, you'll be fine." But what was interesting, I went back to my conference. I went back to the hotel in the conference center, and everyone took me aside. Quite a few people took me aside. Jim, we heard you. We're glad you said it. We agree with you. So it's amazing that people, for whatever reason, don't want to speak up themselves or don't want to say those things. But when you get on the air, a big radio station, and say it, they take you aside and say, "We totally agree. Thanks for saying it. We appreciate it." So I think that's right. Well, it's kind of what we said about Nikki Haley earlier. The narrative prevails over the truth in the short run. In the longer run, reality always wins. That they can have a narrative and it can be powerful, no doubt about it. It can last a while, but eventually the narrative runs into a brick wall called reality. And we're seeing it now. I'm sure you heard the story with all these poor Tesla owners in Chicago. It was like, I don't know, 10 below zero or something. And they went to their charging stations. And first of all, the batteries were dying. They lost the charge because that's what happens. Any skier took a cell phone to a mountain knows that the battery dies. But then they wouldn't take the charge. The battery actually wouldn't take the charge because you have to precondition the battery. And they ended up getting towed away on flatbeds. It was like a Tesla graveyard. That's reality. And they interviewed some of the people. I said, "I'm done with it. You know, I'm not picking on Tesla. It's true of any electronic vehicle, the Ford F-150 Lightning and so forth. Like, I'm done with it. I don't want any more. The resale values are plunging. Hertz is dumping. So that's the reality. The reality is they're golf carts. They don't, they're fine on a golf course, but they don't really work well at all on the road. Same thing with windmills. You know, they freeze. In cold weather, they get brittle. So the UK had an auction for offshore windmill rights. They said, "Okay, we're going to auction big blocks of the North Sea. You can come." There are only a certain number of companies in the world that do this. You can come build your windmills and just bid on it. It was no bid. Nobody wanted to do it. They said, "We can't make money. You're capping the rates and so forth." And of course, I'm sure you've covered. Look at what's going on. Europe's in a complete uproar with the farmers. Germany, Netherlands, Poland, Romania, Denmark. They're all protesting for a lot of reasons, but Netherlands because they've gone off the deep end with the green scam. But even in Germany, they want to remove some fuel subsidies, and the farmers are, "We can't make money without the subsidies. We used to have cheap energy from Russia. You blew that up, literally blew it up at the Nord Stream pipeline. And now you want to take away the subsidies. We're out of business, and you're going to starve." So the reality is sinking in now. We're seeing a little more courage on the part of scientists. It used to be just you'd have to find a retired, meteorologist, geophysicist from some research university to actually speak out against this. But now, active faculty, 1,600 plus scientists have signed a manifesto that says there is no existential crisis. Steve Koonen's book, he was Obama's number one environmental guy. So a liberal Democrat in the Obama administration has come out and said there's no crisis here. These models, by the way, all this gloom and doom you hear and hysteria, climate alarmism, etc., it's all based on models. It's not based on actual data. They input selective data and they get a certain output. It's all rigged. But they've shown the models they can't even backtest correctly. If you take the UN model and gave it data from 10 years ago, so we actually have the data, we know what it is, and say, "Tell us what the weather was like," they can't do it. They can't backtest. So how can they forecast? They can't. So, but but on the other hand, a lot of people are making money out of it. And they have control in Washington, Biden. I just bought a German sports sedan. I love German cars; they're the only ones I drive. But I checked out the specifications. The engine was made in Hungary. Now that's okay. The Hungarians are smart and they're good quality control. But why are companies like BMW and Audi and Porsche outsourcing their engines to Hungary? They're always made in Germany. Well, the answer is the energy costs are too high, and they used to have really cheap energy. So Germany is deindustrializing. Angela Merkel spent 14 years shutting every coal-fired plant and as many nuclear plants as she could in Germany. They were trying to make this transition to wind and solar, but you need a bridge, and the bridge was cheap Russian energy, and they blew that up. So now they don't have the bridge. The end game doesn't work, it never will, but if you want to pretend, that's fine. But that never works. But they didn't even have the bridge to get there because they got rid of the cheap Russian energy because of the war in Ukraine. So yeah, Germany is in recession. 2023 is going to continue in 2024. It is the fourth largest economy in the world. It's not some odd lot. And that's spreading, and China's slowing, so you can see a global recession coming. But the question I ask myself, Steve, is sorry, go ahead. China is imploding. There are a number of reasons for it. I think the real estate collapse is very well known for decades. It was just, the Chinese can't buy that much stuff. They can't buy stuff overseas by and large. So they buy real estate. It went up and up, and it's like any bubble. It collapsed. People have lost money. They don't want to buy more real estate. The other thing that's, and then world trade is collapsing, and China is the manufacturer of the world. Well, if world trade is collapsing, that means China's collapsing. But the other factor, not well understood, is that there is a global dollar shortage. And people say, well, gee, why would you like the dollar? Debt, deficits, all out of control. All true. That'll have a long-term impact. But in the short term, dollar is still king of the hill, and there's a global dollar shortage. And when you see China selling U.S. Treasury securities, everyone's like, they're dumping treasuries, getting out. No, they're selling them to get dollars to prop up their banks, which again, but they're running out. So the whole thing is slowing down enormously. It's been enormous waste. I've been to China many times, not just in Beijing. I've been out in the country, all over the China. Yeah, it's definitely imploding.